This sequence is inspired by real-world tensions and opens in the early hours of the morning, as Iran's leader, Ali Khamenei, is shown returning to his residence. Intelligence sources from the United States and Israel are aware of his movements, and shortly after, a powerful aerial strike is carried out using advanced fighter aircraft. However, this moment marks only the beginning. Iran possesses a significant arsenal of ballistic missiles, known for their extended range and high precision. These systems are capable of reaching targets across multiple regions with remarkable accuracy. In this scenario, missiles are launched towards several nearby territories, rapidly increasing tensions across the region. Such a rapid escalation is rare in modern history, and highlights how quickly situations can intensify on a global scale. The unfolding events create a dramatic and high-stakes atmosphere, setting the tone for the visual sequence we are about to build. In today's tutorial, we will recreate this entire cinematic documentary-style scene completely from scratch, without relying on any third-party map animation plugins. First, I'll show you where to find high-quality vector maps that are perfect for this kind of project. We'll begin by designing an opening scene where Iran is highlighted against a cloudy backdrop, while fighter jets pass through the frame to create motion and depth. After that, we'll move into a satellite-style city view, where you'll learn how to animate a glowing path that follows a road, adding a dynamic visual effect. The sequence will then transition into large-scale explosion effects, followed by a scene that showcases the technical details of a missile in flight. In the background, we'll enhance the motion using stylized speed lines to give a sense of velocity and intensity. Finally, we'll create animated trajectory lines that represent missile paths originating from Iran, and wrap everything up with a cinematic title sequence that ties the whole project together. All the assets required for this tutorial are available through the Google Drive link provided in the video description. Now, let's jump into Adobe After Effects and start building the project. As always, we begin by creating a new composition. 1920 by 1080 resolution, 30 frames per second, with a total duration of 42 seconds. Name this composition main. Download the assets from the provided link and import them into your project. Start by dragging the main world map into the composition. Since this is a vector layer rather than a standard image, enable the continuously rasterize option to maintain sharp quality even when scaling. If you're wondering where to find similar maps, there are several reliable sources online, such as FreePic and Free Vector Maps. Next, we'll begin working with the map by adjusting its position and preparing for the first scene, which will include clouds, text elements, and animated aircraft. Apply a tint effect to the map layer and swap the colors to achieve darker border lines. Since our focus is on the Middle East, zoom in to around 700% and position the map so that Iran and its surrounding regions are centered. Convert the map layer into a 3D layer and create a new 35mm one-node camera to add depth. Then, create a black solid layer to serve as the background. Keep it in 2D so it doesn't move with the camera. To enhance the visual style, create a geographical grid by adding another solid layer, applying a grid effect, and adjusting its settings. Change its blending mode to overlay and reduce the opacity to keep it subtle. Now we'll move on to labeling countries and cities involved in the scenario. To accurately place capital cities, you can temporarily use a reference map with labeled capitals. Lower its opacity, align it with your main map, and use it as a guide for positioning text elements. Once aligned, choose a cinematic font like Montserrat, type the country name, Iran, and position it within its borders. Duplicate the text layer to create the capital name, adjust its size, and place it precisely using your reference. Add a small circular shape to mark the capital location, and convert it into a 3D layer. Repeat similar steps for other countries, such as Israel, adjusting placement and scale accordingly. From here, you can continue refining the layout, adjusting lines, labels, and visual elements to complete the scene. Next, we'll label Jerusalem. Make sure that all layers related to Israel are grouped at the top of your timeline, so it's easier to identify what each element represents. You can also assign a specific color to these layers for better organization. Repeat this same method for all the remaining countries. Keep everything neatly arranged in the final panel, and apply different colors to separate groups. By now, the overall structure should be clear. From here, continue adding country names and capitals involved in the scenario. Simply duplicate your existing text layers and replace the names and capital cities accordingly. For larger countries, you don't need to draw pointer lines. Now let's go step by step. Add Qatar with its capital Doha. Since it's a small country, duplicate the line with the circle marker and position it correctly. Flip the line horizontally so it points to the right, giving you more space for the label. Next is United Arab Emirates with Abu Dhabi, then Oman with Muscat. After that, Saudi Arabia with Riyadh. Add Jordan with Amman. It's also small, so use the same line and circle method and flip it if needed. Finally, include Kuwait with Kuwait City. Since it's compact, again duplicate the line and marker setup and place it precisely. At this point, all text elements are complete. You can now remove the temporary reference map with capital cities. Now we move on to animation, starting with the cloud intro scene and date reveal. Since we have many layers that aren't needed right now, hide them for better focus. Select all layers except the main map and camera and toggle their visibility off. You can always bring them back later with one click. Before adding clouds, create a new null object, convert it into a 3D layer and pair in your camera to it. Rename this null as Cam Control. This will allow smooth and controlled camera movements later. Next, import your cloud footage and remove the green background using a keying effect. Convert the cloud layer into 3D. Use the ellipse tool to draw a mask, then invert it and add feathering for a soft edge. Switch to 2-view mode and adjust the Z position to around -995. Scale it as needed. Now comes the important part, creating depth. Duplicate the cloud layer multiple times. For each duplicate, modify the mask shape. Move it closer along the Z-axis. Adjust position and scale. This layered setup creates a parallax effect, making the scene feel like the camera is flying through clouds. Place each duplicate at different Z positions like around -695, around -468, around -299, around -192, around -44. When you move the camera later, this setup will create a realistic depth illusion. Now let's build the glitch-style date text animation. Create a new composition and name it 2800-2026. Type the date using a cinematic font and set the color to orange. Start by adding an opacity animation. Set opacity to 0. Animate the range selector from 0% to 100% over 2 seconds. Enable randomize order and animate the random seed. Lower smoothness for a sharper flicker. Then add a character offset animation and apply a wiggle expression to create randomness. To enhance the effect, we'll add a glitch distortion. Create a black solid and apply a noise effect. Set it to block style. Increase contrast heavily. Lower brightness. Adjust scale width. Animate the evolution using a time-based expression. Pre-compose this layer, then create an adjustment layer and apply a displacement effect using the noise layer. Adjust horizontal and vertical displacement values to create variation. Duplicate this adjustment layer multiple times, changing values and timing to avoid repetition. To create a fade-out animation, copy your keyframes. Paste them later in the timeline. Reverse them using time reverse keyframes. This results in a repeating glitch cycle with variation in each instance. Finally, return to main composition and import your text animation. Convert into a 3D layer, position around Z equals -460, and adjust its scale and placement near the center. Add finishing touches like glow and shadow effects to enhance visibility and cinematic feel.